Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we are rooting for your success. Now, time for the show. Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo. Thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. And we've got a special guest today, which is no other than Mr. Mike Walmsley. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you, Jo? How are you, James?
Oh, very, very good, Mike. We're delighted to have you with us. And for those of you, if you don't know Mike, you're in the recruitment industry, where have you been? You know, Mike is the $250 million man. He's worked with over 1,000 companies and helping them generate over $250 million or pounds, or whichever way, it's probably pounds as well as dollars, Mike, in business value throughout the UK through his LMS, recruitment training content. He's the CEO and founder of recruitmenttraining.com and Superbiller. And I say he's worked with over 1,000 companies and over 30,000 recruiters across the globe. So if you've not heard of Mike, I'd be absolutely amazed. I've known Mike now for about 15 years, helped my business mentally, and the role I'm in today, I'm here in many ways, Mike, because of an introduction from you. So belated thank you if I've never said that to you before.
Good to see you, James, and good to be with you both.
So, Jo, what are we covering today?
Hot topics, two very hot topics, I think, which we've put into the same sentence: so leadership and management in an AI world. So we're going to be talking about the most common management mistakes in the age of AI and how to turn them into opportunities for growth. Secondly, we're going to talk about how progressive leaders are using AI to boost efficiency and engagement. This is a super hot topic. And we're going to talk about some practical strategies and pick Mike's brains about how your managers can apply AI tactics and techniques straight away. Plus, we're going to talk about some of those key leadership trends that Mike has been seeing in 2025. So quite a lot to get through in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, Mike, as well, you know, we're not here to talk about specific pieces of AI. You know, this isn't an AI or how to do AI. So we're going to be going into that. And so Mike, the format that we're going to go with today is to ask you a few questions and let you expand on your thoughts and share that with people. And also, if people then want to connect and reach out to you, I say you're so easy to find, but look Mike up on LinkedIn for sure. You'll find him. So Jo, let's kick off with our first question for Mike.
Absolutely. And while we're doing that, if anybody else does have any questions as you're watching or even on the replay, please feel free to pop them into the chat, because we do, keep an eye on that. And I'm sure Mike would be, really happy to answer any of your questions. So let's kick off with the first question, Mike. So you've worked really closely, I know, with over 300 recruitment CEOs. Just tell us a few things that you've learned from that unique experience of, working with that many recruitment businesses and CEOs.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing is there's commonality of issues and challenges. So, I've worked with the full spectrum of the industry, really, from labor hire companies through to top-end executive search, medical recruitment companies, finance recruitment companies, construction recruitment companies, companies in the USA, companies in Singapore, companies in Australia. Everyone feels they're unique. And of course, there are unique elements to pretty much every business, or there should be, differentiators. But the challenges are pretty common, really. There's poor internal recruitment, for example. So the lifeblood of running a successful recruitment company is having really, really good people, of course. And that is a huge piece that's lacking in many businesses. There's some very simple things that you can do to improve internal recruitment. And one of them is not to only recruit when you need to recruit, but to constantly have your kind of fish in the water, so to speak, your rod in the water, to be, pulling in a superstar as they come along. But I want to start with issues and challenges in today's marketplace, really. So I'll come into some other answers to your question in a moment, Jo. But I'd say in today's world, it's basic knowledge of AI. So I'm asking recruitment business leaders in, relatively senior positions I said, so to what extent are you using AI? Yeah, we're using AI. Right. In what way? Well, we have ChatGPT. And I'm thinking, really? Is that it? So just to illustrate a point. So ChatGPT, yeah, and by the way, my favorite AI is Perplexity. I think it's faster, more efficient, more powerful than ChatGPT, in my opinion. But if you go on ChatGPT, there's wallpaper all around you. And, there's a plus button, in the search box. So when you click on that, you've got deep research. Most directors don't even know that. So you've got to get your hands dirty in regard to that. Otherwise, how can you deploy that throughout the business to use it to your advantage? So let's just use, say, a connection between that and the answer to your question, Joe. So one issue is internal recruitment. Yeah, you can deploy AI agents to monitor your competitors and see what's happening in those companies. So back in the day, we did manual competitor analysis to stay on top and get a feel for what's happening in those companies. If one superstar is leaving, are there going to be 2 or 3 others leaving, for example? But in today's world, you can deploy AI agents to track quite a bit of that for you automatically, using agentic AI. So for me personally, I dived into this world about 3 years ago. In fact, as soon as ChatGPT came out, I was on YouTube every single night, and I have been for the last 3 years. Now, call me sad if you wish, but that includes Christmas Day. I mean, YouTube is my TV, and my best tip, if you want to really get to grips with that and then, apply some of this knowledge into your business, is go on YouTube daily. So 30 minutes a day for 3 years is over 500 hours, and that's roughly what I've done, really. But let's just go back into the answer to your question. So what do I see? I see poor processes, ineffective use of the database, for example, and I see complaints. And this is quite common. I talked about that word commonality across businesses. And a complaint is, why did you not update the candidate record after talking to the candidate? Why did you not update the client record? Surely that's a leadership question, is it not? We've all been in that pressurized environment where we're speaking to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and then we've suddenly got to type up notes. How about using AI automatically to do that? So in my CRM, I've got agents within that. So I would use, in my instance, I like Fireflies as the AI, but it automatically transcribes the meeting. But that's still a problem for a recruiter, of course. So you've then got to connect that to your CRM. So my agents, AI agents, will first do the transcription, then they'll send the notes into the notes record of the candidate, and then from there they'll draft an email, sitting in my outbox in Outlook, ready to go. That's simple AI agents. But there are even CRMs now that do that automatically.
Can I ask a question on that one, Mike? Just again, it's just we hear, and I'm just trying to sort of explain. I'm trying to sort of put myself in the lowest common denominator here.
Sure.
We hear the words AI agents. So, for example, Joe and I, we use Fireflies. It's connected to our CRM. So the great thing is when we have a meeting with a client, I don't interview candidates, but with a client, as you say, not only is the meeting transcribed for them, which is great, but actually it populates the notes so that colleagues can also see what happened, what took place. It gives you the link back to the video or whatever it is that you've chosen to do. Yeah. Now that's an integration. That's not an AI agent. Is that correct? Or what?
Well, it's the integration. It can be. Well, that one sounds like you're doing Fireflies directly into the CRM. If you want an AI agent, you want to be using a tool like N8N. So if you go on YouTube and you just search for N8N, you'll see others like Make and so on. We looked at quite a number of these, and we chose N8N as being the best one to use. So therefore, N8N can connect to my CRM, but it can also connect to my Outlook.
Yeah, that's that link. That's the AI agent piece, isn't it? That you've gone further than we've gone. So that's a lesson for us even to sort of think about.
That's right. Yeah, but some of the agent, more AI agent based CRMs now do that. So Recruiter Flow, which I'm a fan of as a CRM, is built around AI. So that can if you interview a candidate through Teams, that the notes are automatically put into your CRM without you needing a separate agent like an A10, for example. But back to what I was saying, it's like that, issue that I see in recruitment companies of not updating the database. It's a leadership issue. The leaders should be thinking, okay, we can train and remind people and put systems and processes in, but human beings are human beings. So how do we negate that and make it a smoother experience? That might mean looking at a different CRM, which I understand is painful, or it might mean, putting AI agents into your CRM to fix it. But then there's other things, LinkedIn data, for example. I mean, one of my feelings at the moment about recruitment is the power is in the database. Mm-hmm. And, it's in the past, it was, we've got 50,000 candidates on our database and so on. Then it transferred to, LinkedIn's our database. But I'm now of the mind that with AI, the power is in the database, because I can download all my LinkedIn contacts and put that into AI and get the AI to analyze it and get it to do things that are relevant for me and useful with that data. Now, you couldn't do that a few years ago, but you can now. And you can also slice and dice your own CRM. I mean, I went into a CRM the other day and I identified, very quickly, using an integration, some really powerful data of candidates on the CRM that are actually clients, as in they're high enough level. So again, but that's what I'm talking about here is my experiences of dealing with 300 or so CEOs, poor processes. And what I'm talking about is a potential fix for that for anyone listening, where you can improve those processes by thinking AI first. Yeah. And if I was back doing peer-to-peer learning sessions again, like I did in the past for hundreds of recruitment directors, I bet you the CEOs are not getting their hands dirty properly with AI. I urge you to do that, because when AI first came out, I remember saying, this is bigger than the internet. As soon as I saw it, I'm thinking, this is just a seismic change, and it's accelerating. So everyone's got to get their hands dirty, including managers, and understand that. So what else do I see, within those businesses? Well, excuses. I see excuses. Now, let's take, for example, not posting on LinkedIn. I mean, I post on LinkedIn pretty much every day. I get a huge amount of business from it. Well, that wasn't my idea originally. I just saw that recruiters were doing this. I picked up on it fast about 3 years ago, and I started doing it. Hey, presto, lots of business comes my way. And when I teach recruiters now, I'm doing a reasonable amount of one-to-one coaching with top billers. One of them is billing £2.6 million a year gross profit, and he's engaged me to help improve his performance. And so in those one-to-ones, one of the people I've been coaching, he wasn't doing LinkedIn posting. And the excuse was, I don't have time, I don't know what to post about. But, well, AI, and by the way, I'm not talking about AI writing your post. Yeah. I'm talking about AI giving you ideas for your post, analyzing your competitors' posts and so on, and using agentic AI within LinkedIn that it can actually analyze, what other people are doing and come back to you with ideas. Another big one that I see missing, to finish off a little bit of the answer to that question, Joe, is poor onboarding. I mean, it really is awful in many businesses. To this day, it's almost worse today than it was 15, 20 years ago, because there's so much pressure, and maybe companies have scaled down a bit in the tougher markets. So therefore, they hire a new staff member, and they just want to give them a cursory element of training, and then get them on the phone, and then complain that they're not on the phone, and they're not giving them the tools to do the job. The tools to do the job are to train them properly when you onboard them. And once again, AI can help you with that. So you can use a learning management system that someone goes through a training program on that, live training and otherwise. But how do you assess what they've learned? Well, you can use AI to analyze their learning if you do that in a particular way. You can use AI to assess call recordings or Teams recordings and to point out weaknesses or areas of improvement. So there's lots of things that can be done better. I mean, it's always the case, to be honest. I'm not saying all businesses are in the same boat of these things I've just described, but I'm just trying to concisely give an answer that might be useful for the listeners to that question, really.
Well, Mike, I think you said some good things there in terms of just picking up on that. Poor internal coupled with core processes and that commonality around there and some ideas. But building upon what you said, what are the typical areas of improvement for managers? How can they sort of move on, and what can they do right now? Again,
sure. Well,
rather than a generic response, that's okay.
Sure. The main things I see are lack of one-to-ones. So, for me, a one-to-one is the heartbeat of the business. And a manager, how can you influence what's going on if you're just observing and just seeing stuff in the office? A one-to-one is an opportunity to understand that person, to help and coach and guide them. And it's actually truly motivational when it's done well. It's a training issue for managers. And there's a lack of training for managers. It tends to be, you're a big biller, off you go. And therefore there's a feeling of, I'm telling you what to do rather than coaching you. So top managers have got good coaching skills. In fact, there's a direct correlation, according to Google and Microsoft research on sales managers. The best managers have the best coaching skills. And one-to-ones are in effect coaching sessions where you're supporting that person. So I'd say one-to-ones would be one of the fastest ways a manager could get better performance, holding people accountable for performance. And that's probably a second but related answer to that question. There's kind of three types of manager in a way, isn't there? There's the manager who doesn't know what's happening because they're not measuring anything. There's the manager who watches things happen. So they see stuff going on, but they do nothing about it. And there's the manager who makes things happen. Surely you want to be the manager that makes things happen. To be the manager that makes things happen, you need data. So I would say the next point of areas of improvement is lack of data analysis. And again, with AI, if a manager is upskilled in their knowledge of AI, then it's easier to do the data analysis. And a client of mine who in Australia, they've got about 100 recruiters. And when I opened his eyes to AI several years ago, 2 years ago, he fed back to me, it's the biggest training initiative in his business ever. So he grabbed hold of it and did something about it. And therefore he's reaping the rewards now. But a lot of people are just going on conferences and getting information and then struggling to understand it. You've really got to get your hands dirty. So I think lack of data analysis, AI can help massively with that. Not measuring the best KPIs. KPIs get a bad rap in our industry. I've even seen adverts that say we don't have a KPI culture because they want to attract people who are disaffected with KPIs in their business. But I'm thinking, hold on. If you don't measure things, how can you improve it? So I actually changed the name of KPIs a few years ago to PSMs, Predictive Success Metric. And I think a lot of managers are not measuring the best KPIs, the best PSMs. For example, I would measure candidate referrals as one of the measures. It's an unusual KPI. I would measure, certain specific business development activities, client referrals, for example. Just for a couple. So I think, managers need to look more closely about what do you want your staff to do, and then work out what are the best tactics to make that happen, and then measure it. And if that includes LinkedIn posting, measure it. So you're sitting down with Johnny at the end, the end of the week for 15 minutes. So Johnny, how'd you get on with your LinkedIn posts? Oh, I didn't have time, Mike. I was really busy. 10 vacancies called in. Look, we all have that. Well, not 10 vacancies called in, maybe as much, but hopefully so. We're all going to have busy days and busy weeks. So I'm busy is an excuse. So then you've unpicked the excuse, and you're able to solve it and fix it and give them some advice. So I would say in the time we've got today, those would be a few rapid fire answers to that question, James.
Thanks, Mike.
Great. I've got a question that I want to talk to you, and it's an extension of the topic we've just been talking about around managers and things like that. But one of the other questions that I wanted to ask that's just come to me whilst you've been talking about that is this sort of the excuses that consultants and managers give for not doing something or not having the time to do things. How could AI help with that? Do you know what would your insight be around how can AI help recruiters to be more organized? Can AI help recruiters to be more disciplined, or is that still a human trait? And can AI help us to be, what I actually think is one of our biggest challenges, consistent as well?
Sure. You've got to be thinking AI first now in everything, and people still are not doing it. I hardly ever use Google. Everything is AI for me now. It's a shortcut. Why would I not use that? So, for example, managers. A manager should be thinking before the day begins about what they're going to do, and they should have a mini plan. There might be 2 or 3 things. Johnny might be underperforming. What do I do about Johnny? Why not use AI in the morning over your coffee, to get some ideas about Johnny? Prompt the AI about Johnny and the issues you're facing and ask it to give you some solutions. I mean, that's a very, very simple thing to do. So I think it's more like think AI first, and it's pretty much going to give you a solution.
I think you shouldn't be rigid though and stuck to those, Mike. I mean, I think you should use it as a guide, surely.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a time saver. It's a brainstormer. There's actually talking AI now, as I'm sure you're aware. I mean, one of the businesses I have has conversational AI hiring screening, and it's blow away. I mean, it really is almost like we're talking now.
Yeah.
And I believe it or not, I was talking to Aristotle the other day. I was talking to Einstein, having a good conversation with him. He's a bit smarter than me, obviously. I'm talking to Arnold.
Back from the dead.
Yeah, I'm talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And incidentally, this is 3 years old stuff. It's not new today. 3 years ago on YouTube, I was watching a 24-year-old guy, and he said he really liked Stoicism. He loved that philosophy from the ancient past, So he experimented with AI, and he loaded the open source works of Aristotle, because there's no copyright on that, into AI. And then he demonstrated it on YouTube. That he wakes up in the morning and he's got some challenge, and he says, "Aristotle, I've got a problem." "Oh, my son, what is your problem?" And he talks to him.
Wow.
So
I think most of us are left with Alexa, Mike, but we'll have to sort of,
yeah. But why do people not know this? Because they're not grabbing hold of the knowledge. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think when you say AI first, and I think again, and this is where I don't want to call it laziness. That'll probably be a bit too tough. But what we do is, and he said first of all, he started off saying, "Hey, listen, we've got ChatGPT," and everyone just jumps into and goes on ChatGPT. So there's a cost element to this, and what's your views on a recruitment business owner, a manager, a leader in the recruitment business? Should you be paying for AI, or should you be cheapskating and just trying to run it off the freebie versions?
Well, I when ChatGPT first came out, of course, it was the only one I knew. I paid for it, and then I found Perplexity, and I didn't pay for it, and I've never paid for it. I find Perplexity to be superior. The ChatGPT, I think there are some things you can do within ChatGPT and other AI that, you can have GPTs, for example, that do things for you on autopilot within ChatGPT. You've got deep research that I mentioned earlier. Now, Perplexity used to give 3 deep researches free once a month. So, and I was only using 2 or 3 anyway, so I didn't need to pay for it. So, Whereas with ChatGPT, if you paid $20, you get 20 deep researches. So if some of the functionality is valuable for you, use it. But for me, ChatGPT freezes, and I'm tapping the table, thinking, "Come on." Whereas Perplexity is smooth, and so I would say experiment with other AI. I've got several that I play around with, and if you're new to it, don't pay for it unless you need some of the other features. Would be my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. But I think as you do get into it, don't. It is an investment. It's not a cost. And like I say, the tools are out there. But things like you said, forgive me, Mike, you mentioned Make, but you said you're using another one, 8N8.
No. N8N.
Close, wasn't I? N8N. Sure, I wasn't listening earlier, but I was close. N8N. I'm assuming that's a paid for service.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that to help you do some of those things, so use all of the pieces and be smart with those. So that's great. Okay, Joe, over to you. I think you got a question.
Yeah, so I wanted to. We've had quite a few conversations with different recruitment leaders and also other sort of thought leaders within the industry. And I think one of the things that keeps coming back, and you're mentioning it here today as well, Mike, is that this is a responsibility, or this is something that a CEO should be owning. This is something that directors of businesses should be owning, as opposed to just allowing your recruiters to go off and just start finding AI, because give them ChatGPT, they're probably going to sit on ChatGPT, and that's not necessarily fee earning. It's not smartest use of their money. So how can AI help leaders, do you think? And what should leaders be doing to help their businesses to embrace this AI first, not an AI only, but the AI first mentality?
Yeah, I think you've got to get excited about it, which means you've got to get your hands dirty and you've got to play around with it. So some of the things we've already discussed, but for example, strategic planning. I mean, I've been a board advisor to a number of recruitment companies, a few of which have gone on to successfully exit. And I've done strategic planning days, so I've gone in for a full day, sometimes 2 days, weekend away, and get all the team together and all the ideas. You know what I would do now? My first instinct would be go to AI, and I would prompt the AI. So you've got to become, good at prompting. And by the way, you can get the AI to do the prompt.
Yeah.
I'm doing a strategic planning day on blah, blah, blah. This is my business. This is what it does, blah, 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 blah. Write a prompt that's going to give me blah, blah, blah. And it's going to create the prompt. So you can do a lot of brainstorming with yourself as a business leader now in a way that you couldn't do previously. And I would say start doing that. So you could put a strategic business plan together pretty much on your own. Okay, it's better to get input from other people, of course, and you need buy-in. But the skeleton of that plan can be put together. So then you've got legal documentation. I mean, my daughter is actually training to be a lawyer in an American law firm in London. It's pressurized. She's working God knows how many hours. I imagine it's not far off 100 hours a week, by the way, or 70 hours a week, whatever the big number is. And sometimes I'm a bit concerned for her because I'm using lawyers less and less, like a shareholders agreement. There was one horror story of a company I was involved with, and it was a 60 million turnover business. The two principals fell out. My first question to them was, where's your shareholders agreement? And they went, no, we were really good friends, and probably they would have had to spend £1,500 or dollars or whatever on a shareholders agreement and thought, we don't need it. We don't want to waste that money and we don't need it. Today, you've got a shareholders agreement easily. And, the way I think about AI is I get it to do something, and then I put the thing back into AI and say, now look at it from the other person's viewpoint and criticize it and pull it apart. That's a sensible thing to do. But instead of a lawyer pulling it apart, I'm getting the AI to pull my own work apart, and then that's going to refine it and improve it. Other things you can do, we talked about competitor analysis, note taking. I mean, you're already onto it, James and Joe, the note taking. But, so if I do 6 Teams meetings a day, and I sometimes do, I'm saving 10 minutes per meeting. So that's an hour per day. So that's 20 hours, in a month. That's huge. If you've got a recruitment company and, your staff are still manually typing up notes and you've not embraced this kind of thing, then there's a lot of productivity that you're missing out on.
Yeah.
And then you've got role play. so to answer the question, how can leaders start to use it? Well, have you thought about role playing with AI? So there are specific AI now where you can do that. But one simple thing that I did with a coaching session, and there was a recruiter who was paying me individually.
Oh, has Mike froze on you, Joe?
Yes. Hopefully
Okay.
he'll come back.
Hopefully he'll come back, but there we go. I think, whilst Mike comes back, and he probably thinks he's still talking to us. I think we picked up some really good.
And I said, why not role play with ChatGPT? Yeah. You didn't realize you could talk to ChatGPT. Again, it's lack of knowledge. And so I gave him the action. A week later, we met, and he went, I was surprised how good it was. So you can practice things. You can integrate things like this into your training. And by the way, I'd be careful with, just jumping in without checking things, because I want to share a mistake that happened in my business, which was Teams. So we integrated AI into Teams for transcription, as you know, and then somebody who wasn't in that meeting received the notes, and we were like, what? How did that happen? Now, fortunately, it wasn't a big problem, but the AI heard the person's name. She'd been on the Teams meeting through that company with me in a previous session, and therefore it assumed wrongly to send it. That's a settings thing within Fireflies and Teams that we'd not worked out at the time, because we didn't consider it would ever do that. So you've got to be careful with it, but being on sessions like this means you're picking up additional knowledge, really.
I think so, and I think highlight those mistakes. I think as we draw to a close, I'm just conscious of people's time. Mike, I think you shared some really wonderful points, and I think there are some key lessons, and Joe will probably pick out a couple. I'm going to say get your hands dirty with AI. That's the thing I want to take. Embrace it, go in with it. What have you picked up, Joe?
I think you just mentioned it then, actually, around productivity. I think there's a million different pieces of AI you could put into your business. You've got to ask the question, why? Why am I putting it into my business, and what is it going to do for me? How is it going to enable my recruiters and my managers to be more efficient and more effective? So it's looking at it from a productivity perspective. What are they doing now that they don't need to do, that could be replaced by AI, so they can get on with the fee earning stuff, the stuff that is still a contact sport. It's still human element as opposed to the AI element. And also looking out for mistakes as well. I think there are some stories now starting to come out about exactly like that with Teams and Fireflies integration. I think be safe as a business as well. Make sure that if you can get advice from people like Mike, who knows what he's talking about, as far as AI is concerned. Get some advice for your business. It's all right just shoving all this software into your organization, but you've got to make sure that there isn't a cost, a negative cost associated to that as well.
Absolutely.
I think to add to that, Joe, this session was leadership and management in an AI world, and there's a word in there, leadership. So I think leaders have got to get their hands dirty. I know we've said that a few times in this session, but it's such a massive opportunity if you get it right. And people who just delegate, I understand the value of that, but you're probably going to see things as the owner of the business or a senior person in the business, and you'll see an efficiency that other people don't spot because it's of less interest to them. Whereas for you as that leader, you're thinking across the whole business. So I would say for me, that's one of the biggest things that a leader should be taking away from this session.
Excellent. Well, listen, I think, Mike, you've shared some great points. If people want to get in touch with us, just to catch up, because we sit in with Mike, there you go, some details up on the screen where you can catch up with Mike on LinkedIn. I said just search him, he'll pop up, because there is no other Mike Walmsley. There's only the one. But Mike shared some great thoughts. So if you want to get in touch with us at iIntro, we're happy to sort of help you run through some of the ideas that we've been talking about today, but also obviously to help you go out there and deliver more of a consultative service. And hopefully up will pop a different banner with some of our details on there in terms of how you can get in touch. But Mike, it's been fascinating. As I say, we've picked up some great lessons. I think, as you said, leadership is about leading. It's not about delegating. So I think there's been some great hints and tips. I hope people do connect with you. Appreciate everything you've done today in terms of sharing some information with us, and we'll look forward to welcoming you back at some point in 2026. Wow, first one.
See you. Bye now.
Great.
Cheers.
So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. It's
Goodbye from me.
Bye. Take care, everybody.